While he's outside the fort in his tent, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he sees his eunuch slave servant, by the way, a crusader who was eunuchized after being captured and turned into a slave, drinking from his chalice, drinking wine from his chalice. Zengi really liked alcohol, so he was a bad Muslim. And he wakes up, he sees the servant doing this. He tells the servant, I'm going to go back to sleep, but when I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to punish you for drinking my wine from my chalice. And then he rolls over and goes back to sleep. The servant waits a little bit, goes, grabs a dagger, comes back in the room and stabs him to death. And you think, dude, what the heck? What is wrong with you? You didn't think that through. So in 1146, Zengi's gone because he didn't think this through. Like, don't threaten the guy. Just wake up in the morning and kill him. Like, what the heck? Anyway, the guy runs across and goes to the fort, and he's treated like a hero because he basically took out this guy. What happens next is a brief period of chaos. It's not like a full-scale power struggle, but there's definitely a little bit of that going on because the state has just lost its leader, and at the time, peaceful transition of government wasn't really necessarily a thing. For everybody's sake, for the Arab, Turkish, Muslim, Kurdish population's sake anyway, they got lucky because Zengi's two oldest sons were smart and calm, and they were the kind of guys who could get this right. The older son takes over Mosul, the younger son takes over Aleppo, and now they set themselves on a course of stabilizing their dad's kingdom. So they've split the kingdom in two, which on the surface looks bad, right? You're like, oh, it would have been better to rule by one guy like their dad had done. But in retrospect, looking at it, it looks like it was actually a brilliant thing to do. Because one of the problems that Zengi kept having was, there were two problems. One, the Seljuk Empire is coming apart, and Mosul in northern Iraq is kind of at the center of all of this. And so there's this, he's constantly struggling to stabilize things because he's constantly dealing with that. And then to make things more complicated, the Abbasid Caliphate had decided to reassert its political and military authority on more than one occasion, and there were actually wars against the guy who's supposed to be the symbolic and religious leader of Islam, right? Because he no longer had political power, but had in the Khalifa in the past had that. So they had been sort of English monarchyized, right? Where, oh yeah, the king did have power once, clearly not anymore. So by splitting that little kingdom in two, now the older brother will deal with the crazy of civil war and a Khalifa that wants to take over and whatever else is happening with the Seljuks, and it left the younger brother, Nuruddin, the ability to focus on Syria, to focus on the Crusaders. And because they liked each other, respected each other, and trusted each other, they could then turn their backs to each other and not worry about being backstabbed. So that meant that one could focus in one place, the other could focus in the other place.